taking the temporary period of time that you have on this planet and turning it into something of value, or something that can be used in a value exchange. And that's what they're trading. It's our time. Fundamentally, that's exactly what it is. And so with every wasted dollar, you have just effectively wasted someone's time because it went towards nothing, or it didn't go towards its desired purpose or optimal purpose. And I'm not saying that that it's somehow possible for the government to act like a robot and automatically know where to put money, and I understand that programs fail, but Jesus fucking Christ, dude, like this is a crazy amount of money that we're spending for what? For people to wait 6 months for a doctor? For immigration to skyrocket to the point where you have an outbreak of landlords putting 6 people to a basement? Like we're modern Canadians, just young Canadians, can't even we can't even picture of getting a home. It's a joke. It's a butt of a joke. Like we'll joke about that sometimes. It's the equivalent of saying when pigs fly, which is a fucking crazy sentence or a crazy notion to have in what is a first world G7 country that has some of the most sophisticated technologies available to it on the planet. If we're just ranking it, like, sure, we're not like America, fine, but we're pretty modern. Like, we got roads, running water, electricity. The biggest and one of the most influential engineering schools in the world, from my understanding, is located in Waterloo. We put out so many code devs and engineers and people that go into AI that are so good at their fucking job that they end up going to San Francisco because there's better opportunities there and you get paid in US dollars. Like I'm kind of ranting here at this point, but my point is there's so many issues that are plaguing Canada right now, and it seems like the tools they've been using for the last 10 years have been nothing but just a slow climb towards our own self-implosion, if left unchecked. And I'm not trying to be a doomer or like black pill here, or like none of that shit. It's just to say that like the good quality of life that we have now, despite all these difficult things, like that, there's no rule in the law of nature that says that this is how it will go on forever. Like that is something that you have to actually fight for and work towards. It doesn't just fucking happen. You don't just get that. America doesn't get to where it is by sitting around on its ass. Neither do European countries or Southeast Asian countries that are developing from third world to first world at a rapid rate. Like that doesn't just happen. People actually have to put in work. There have to be incentives. Like ideas have to align within the society in terms of what is good and where we're headed. There has to be something like that, and Canada has completely lost the plot. There's no sense that we're a nation behind something. There's nothing that is seemingly uniting us. Except I might argue that the one thing that could actually unite all Canadians is the fact that our fucking time is being fucked with, right? Back again to that idea that the money that they waste is the time that we put into working day in and day out for these fuckers. And I'm not even talking about like liberals exclusively. I guarantee you there's plenty of conservative politicians that have fucked around with people's money too. I am neutral when it comes to this shit. And this might be one of the few things that actually get people together, to unite over the fact that these people are fucking with our time. The precious time that we have that we should be spending with loved ones, creating magnificent things, whether it's creative or otherwise, pushing ourselves, or just doing literally anything else. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous how much time you have to spend working a job just to be able to order fucking takeout or go to a hockey game or do any of these normal things that everyone should be able to do. And at its height, I feel like it was like 1 in 5 Canadians were using food banks or some shit. What was the height of the food scarcity and cost of living crisis in Canada recently. How many out of how many? What no? What fraction of Canadians were forced to go hungry because they couldn't Jesus Christ, couldn't afford to feed themselves. This is something that Pierre Poilievre talks about, and at least he does, because like the liberals don't want to talk about it at all because they're the ones that fucking caused it. But yeah, there's legit just tons of people that are going hungry every single day because they can't afford to buy anything from a supermarket. And I'm not even talking like going to Whole Foods. Even the stuff at Loblaws, the basic consumer store, or No Frills, what's seen as like the cheap alternative. It's still fucking expensive. Way more than it should be for a country like ours. Are you serious? 23% of Canadians reporting they were unable to purchase sufficient food. Now, okay, mind you, that's 23% of the responders, right? And how many people were actually asked? Like, where is this? 1,500 online surveys conducted with adult Canadians every quarter. Now, that might be a diverse group in terms of the provinces and where they live. Who knows? But it's certainly a problem that I've heard my friends talk about and people that I work with, that it's a concern for them. So I would wager, and especially since I've seen it myself too, I would wager that, yeah, there is some truth to this fact. Over 40% Canadians reporting that they feel worse off financially compared to the previous quarter, marking an alarming 11-point increase. And honestly, no amount of statistics will even fucking teach you this. Go to a bar. Go to a bar and have a night out with 3 pints or 4 pints and see how much that costs you. Okay? Like, I don't want to be a boomer about this. Like, oh, fucking shit used to cost a nickel back then. Okay. But my friend Stain Haynes pointed this out, that, like, it's accelerating. The rate at which the effects that our previous generation would tell us about in their later years, like, the gap between that time is closing because of just inflation. What I mean to say is, like, your parents would be talking about this kind of stuff, that, hey, I remember food used to cost a nickel. But now you have people in their 20s saying this, which is a huge jump of devaluation. But back to that other story that I started this all with. Let me see here. There was a news story about the parties getting together to combat Pierre Poilievre. News story about political parties in talks to form coalition against conservatives. Let's see if I can find this. Also, you know what? Let's change up the music a little bit. It was a little too tranquil for my liking. No. Canada. Why does it assume UK? God damn it. We're not the same. Oh, I think we got a contender for the music. Let's play some NCS House. This is house? No, this is gay. No, come on. What? No, 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 no. That's ridiculous. Too passionate for this stream. This is a political stream. Come on. Okay, that's not bad. Nope, 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 nope. All right, fuck it. We'll figure out the music as we go. Let me see if I can find this. I can't believe I can't find it. Oh, in any case, let's move on. Let's see if there's any results with the current election. Canada election live results. Because some writings should have been called by now. Oh, here we go. Really? There's no map? Are you serious? This is retarded. There's no visual. Bro, what are our taxes fucking going to? There's no fucking. There's no visual indication. You guys can't have a map on the website? And why does the website look like it's from the early 2000s? What the fuck is this? Am I asking for too much? No, this is crazy. Okay, I guess fine. They leave it to fucking CBC and everyone else to do the visuals. Okay, cool. Sure. BBC and what? Okay, does the CBC not have? Where are the live results? Thank you. Finally, they got a map. Alrighty. Let's refresh that. Okay. So far, so good. So far, so good. Well, that fucking came close. Jesus. Interesting. It would be cool to see a comparison in real time as to what last year's or last election's results were. Because this is nice and all what right now, but I would like to know what's been happening since then to see if there's a trend. Because that's actually what's important. All these counties, or sorry, all these ridings flipping. That's what would be cooler to see. Or just how close to get to being conservative. That's a fucking blowout. Alright, so I'm guessing these have been called. Oh, yeah, let's check out the CBC Live cover. Oh! Queen Bee herself. Rosemary Barton. Look at you go. I think that's Ian Hannah-Mansing. Classically handsome. You know what? I'll agree. The man is handsome. I'll give him that. He actually is. He's pretty good looking. $313 seats still waiting. Oh, okay. They just announced. Jesus Christ! What the fuck? Hold on, to play that. Oh, you got to be able to pause it. Is there a fucking print screen I can take? Perfect. Oh my goodness. Bro, what are these faces? What? Oh, Jesus. Let me see if I can pull that up. Oh yeah, I got the screen cap. Let's go, baby. Bro, what? This is your political candidate? Are you serious? Look, I'm not trying to like, I'm not trying to just make fun of people for like just for looking funny because that's how they were born and they can't control it. But this looks like she just literally opened up her arm and took a selfie. Like no, like these at least like look staged, right? They went to a place. I don't know what he's scowling at. I guess he just worked out in the sun all his life and decided to be a politician yesterday. Yikes. You would have thought they would have like sent somebody to that district to replace him. Because that is a little nutso. Okay. And that, Jesus, yeah, I mean, look, I hate to assume like what somebody thinks based on what they look like, but I feel like I feel like this is okay. Like I kind of get the gist of it. And you're NDP. Okay. Alrighty. Just gotta keep that open for later. Alright, these fucking yap artists. Let's pull that tab over here. We don't need to see that. That's okay. Close that chat. Let that go. Uno momento, fellas and ladies. Okay. So as the results keep trickling in, you're gonna see more posts and whatnot on all this stuff. I don't know if there is. Is there a Twitter? Is there a special Twitter counter for the Canadian election? Because there was one for the U.S. Let's see this. Okay, so they're not even doing like a live stream or anything. I guess they're just counting and doing the results. One cool thing, this election has had a turnout of 7 million people in just like the preemptive vote. 7 million people, which is like the highest that it's been at for a very long time, I think. Several years. Like when was the last time this happened? When was the last time 7 million or more people turned out for the pre-vote in a federal Canadian election? Or advanced vote, not the pre-vote. Jesus Christ. Advanced voting. Let's find out. Let's pop a Zin while we're at it. Sorry, not a Zin, a Zonic. Buy Canadian. Buy Zonic. Which is actually not an advertisement because they make the tobacco product. So, YouTube and Rumble, please don't kill me. I just wish that we had brands like Zins here. It's actually ridiculous. You know, we can't buy nicotine pouches Canada-wide unless it's from a pharmacy. How fucking crazy is that? It's a nicotine pouch. Like, you go to the States, you can buy it at fucking bodegas. They sell it everywhere. And I understand the problem of selling to kids. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not ignorant to that. I used to work in that or an adjacent industry anyways. I understand the risk. But like, what, you can't card people? You can't restrict it to like official tobacco shops even? I can walk in and I can buy like tobacco pouches. Like, those actually exist. They're not like pure nicotine and whatever else they put in here, like filler, like propylene glycol or whatever. But I can buy tobacco pouches. So I'm not really sure what that law does exactly except limit adults' access to this. Which is so stupid because at the same time, Doug Ford, the premier, or in other words, the what's the American term for it? Not senator, governor. The governor of Ontario, or the premier, He made it so that people could buy alcohol at corner stores, which never used to be a thing in Ontario, ever. It was never a thing. You would either go to the government-owned liquor store or, well, basically, yeah, to just government-owned liquor stores. Which, look, I'm all for free markets. I understand that. But if you're going to let corner stores do that, why don't you just let, like, anybody do that? Like, mom and pop stops. Like, anybody. And not only that, but, like, the purchases still go through the LCBO. So it's all still government owned. It's not like these people are buying it straight from Anheuser-Busch or Smirnoff or any of these big alcohol brands. For the Canadian corner stores, they're buying it from the LCBO. So it still goes through the government. It doesn't even open the market, because then corner stores, for the most part, are just chains. Like, I have yet to see liquor or beer offered at, like, a regular corner store or, like, grocery place independent. Maybe I just haven't been to enough, but so, like, so they limit Xanax, but now you can buy beer at fucking gas stations and highway stops. What sense does that fucking make? Like, what? Alcohol is by far the worst predictor for car crashes and for alcoholism, or for a lot of bad shit. I'm not talking shit about it. I love to drink. It's fucking awesome. I'm gonna be drinking tonight. You goddamn right. But that's insane. Like, nicotine pouches, no, you can only buy that in certain places. Whereas alcohol, hell yeah, dude, to your fucking heart's content. By all means, please buy it anywhere and everywhere. Within certain hours, but, like, still, like, that's... Anyways, I'm fucking ranting. That little stat that I was looking for earlier. The 2025 Canadian federal election marked the first instance where over 7 million people participated in advanced voting, where they approximately reported about 7.28 million. This shattered the previous record of 5.85 million advanced voters set during the 2021 federal election. So, how's about we show stats about advanced voting turnout for the last 100 years in Canada. Let's actually see if we can graph this out. Once again, I'm using Perplexity, perplexity.ai for all of your search engine needs. As per every stream, I will never, ever, ever, ever stop shilling Perplexity. It's a fucking great tool. Say what you want about AI and taking user data to make itself better, but I'd rather do that for Perplexity and not Google, which at one point had "Don't be evil" as their mission objective, but then they removed it. I would assume because of legal reasons and how it could be used against them in court, or for whatever reason. But yeah, and they helped China build their own Google too, which is kind of fucked. But in any case, Perplexity. Yeah, so 2021 election compared to this year's 7, there was about 5.8, so 6. In 2019, there was 4.9, which is basically 5. In 2015, the previous election was only 3.7. So it's been growing steadily. People have been making their mind up quicker, which is, I guess, it's one of the indicators. It's not the only thing that stat says about it, but yeah, it looks like people have been making up their mind a little bit quicker, to the tune of millions of people. Right, let's double check in. You know what? Ugh, fuck, yeah, I'm gonna be rarely checking the actual coverage of the count, because realistically, it's not gonna be done until at least 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is still a ways away. And I don't know how it typically cascades, because in America, I know that certain states, as soon as they're won, it's kind of like, all right, well, there's not really enough representation that you can get at this point that you can win. And I genuinely don't know what that dynamic is for Canada, because I never paid attention to Canadian elections in this way. I think this is actually the first year that I'm not only live streaming, but actually talking about it, because I don't know. I guess I never just really gave a shit, and I was too cynical. But I've come to realize that whether you like it or not, it's the reality, and you have to be aware of it to a certain extent. You just can't let it swallow you up like everything else in life. In any case, okay, looks like people are tweeting that the Conservatives are currently 12 seats, outperforming Stephen Harper, who is the last prime minister before Justin Trudeau, who was a Conservative, who Pierre Poilievre actually worked under as housing minister, and I think some other positions as well. So currently the Conservatives are outperforming Stephen Harper's majority victory in Atlantic Canada with some big early wins in Newfoundland. I've squat diddly knowledge on what that means. I don't know if Newfoundland is historically conservative or liberal. I know that for those who don't know what Canada looks like, I don't know why you'd be tuning in. I appreciate it, but if you want to learn some stuff, this is what Canada looks like. We're divided into provinces. We got Ontario, Quebec, the Quebecois, Newfoundland and Labrador. Is that fucking... Oh, sorry. New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island right here. Actually, what am I doing? Why don't I just zoom out? Yeah, fucking, this is so much easier. And it's in dark mode. Yes, Quebec, Newfoundland, Labrador, Prince Edward Island, which is tiny, tiny, tiny little fucking thing that's almost, there's only one bridge? Oh my god, you would have thought they would have made more bridges by now. That's very strange. Okay, interesting. PEI, New Brunswick, Quebec, Ontario, and the majority of people that live in Canada, I think it's like 70 or 80% of the population lives in this, like, in the southern coast here. Not coast, but this little line. Let me actually draw it out here. There's a line right here. And around BC as well, and Vancouver. It's also very metropolitan. Calgary, Edmonton. I don't know. I have no clue what goes on in Saskatchewan. I remember rolling... Actually, no, I did not go that far. I rolled through Manitoba one summer, which is a lot of fun, driving through the province. It gets old because everything is flat, but you see a lot of cows and farms and whatnot. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool province. A lot of wildlife, a lot of parks, a lot of nature. Very beautiful, tranquil, and peaceful. If I was to retire anywhere, it'd probably be in a place like that. And then yeah, Winnipeg, of course. But notice everything. Yeah, everything is literally by the coast, or by the border with the United States. And so, oh right, sorry, totally forgot. Which actually makes my point. These fucking things right here, these territories. Wait, hold on. All this shit up here. Rarely talked about. That there's barely any news stories that come out of there, and even those that do, it's always like, I don't know, a shortage of food or something like that. I figure it doesn't feel like there's a lot of like positive news coming out of that place. It's more just like, oh, this is how cold it got up here, or there's the new program they're having with the native reserve. It's just that there's not a lot going on naturally because most of this is a frozen wasteland for a good chunk of the year. So naturally, you obviously can't build anything on it. But there are some settlements here and there. I mean, okay, what is the... I don't want to be dismissive of this, right? Because I'm not saying that they don't matter. But what is the total population of Canadian territories? Show it as a fraction of the total Canadian population. Because even if I look at like Canada population density map 2024. Okay, look at this. I'm not just saying all this to shit on the territories. This is abysmal. Everybody's living down here. Everybody's living down here. Everything else is just like little pockets here and there, except Edmonton, this whole stretch, right? But look at the territories. Blank. They're blank except a couple of circles here and there. And sorry, this is by 2006, so it obviously would have changed. What is this? What year is this? 2014. Is it really any better? Hold on. Can I see a larger version of this? Oh, here it is. The Quebec City-Windsor corridor is the most densely inhabited and heavily industrialized region, accounting for nearly 50% of the total population. That's quite a bit. That's quite a bit. This whole corridor right here, Windsor, going to Quebec. This right here, this little spot. Let me draw it for you on the screen. This right here. This little spot. 50% of Canada's population lives here. And you can drive through it in a day? To get to Ottawa from Toronto, it's like 5 hours. So yeah, you could probably make that in a day. Maybe a day and a half, something like that. And you drive through 50% of Canada's population. So yeah, not a lot goes down in the territories. We don't really hear from them all that much. Let's keep that window open. And I've heard that some provinces are thinking of defecting. Not defecting, but leaving the country. And there's been talk about Quebec doing it for a while. They've had at least 2 votes that I know of on this, which actually came really close. It came within, I think, 100,000 people or something like that. Oh, wait, sorry. I totally zoned out. Didn't even see the thing I wanted to look up. Apologies. Yeah, the total percentage of population that lives in the territories, that whole vast northern region, is 0.32%, 130K people. That's like that's just smaller than a big, like, that's just bigger than a small town population. Or medium town, or whatever word you want to use. That is a absolutely abysmally low number. Which makes up almost 40% of Canada's total land area. Wow. Insane. That's nuts. I mean, yeah, obviously, like I said, it's a frozen tundra. Like, no shit. It's a marvel that, like, this is how many people live here. Insane. And some provinces, yeah, they want to secede, like Quebec. Quebec have been talking about seceding in that vote. How close did the referendum vote come in Quebec? I think within like 10,000 people or something like that. Let's see. 54,000 votes. The difference amounted to 54,000 votes, with a record-breaking 93% voter turnout. Yeah, so they've been wanting to leave for a while. They have their own reasons, many of which I'm actually not familiar with at all. I don't remember going over in school. Not really something that comes up in conversation. Maybe I just haven't met the right people, but this is not something that feels talked about. Which is kind of strange. Like, you have a powerhouse. Like, Quebec has a pretty sizable economy, most of which I believe they trade with actually the United States, or at least a good chunk of it. And a lot of urban sprawl, especially in Montreal and the surrounding areas. But they also make up like 70% of the world's maple syrup, or like 50%, something like that. Like a crazy amount comes from Quebec. And so they want to secede. Alberta has talked about seceding, and they are the oil and gas capital of Canada. Crazy fun fact, there's actually a lot of like dinosaur skeletons that get dug up in this whole region. It's actually kind of crazy. There's a lot of dinosaurs that have been, like, skeletons that have been discovered in Canada. How many dinosaur excavations have happened in Canada? Like, it's a crazy high amount. We don't really talk about it. At least I hope I'm not just bullshitting. From what I remember, it's fairly sizable chunk. Yeah, Canada has been a focal point for dinosaur excavation, particularly in Alberta's Badlands, where extensive fossil discoveries have been made since the late 19th century, so the late 1800s. While the exact number of individual excavations isn't explicitly recorded, the scale of findings underscores the country's significance in paleontology. There's... Holy shit, the Dinosaur Provincial Park in Alberta, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, yielded 58 dinosaur species and over 500 specimens, now displayed globally. More than 100 dinosaur species have been identified across Canada, with nearly half from Dinosaur Provincial Park alone. Okay, you would think this would be a point of national pride. Like, I understand that, like, we didn't exactly build anything, we just discovered them, but that's a great propaganda tool. Are you serious? We have, like, some of the largest collections of dinosaurs in the world. Over 1,000 complete dinosaur skeletons have been excavated in Alberta's Red Deer River Valley since the 1800s. Okay, what percentage of the world's dinosaur findings have occurred in Canada? I misspelled occurred? Are you serious? It's 2 C's and 2 R's? Oh, okay. That makes sense. Fuck it, we're switching up the playlist a little bit. Let's find out. See, even the AI is having a hard time with this. That's how many dinosaurs we've found, man. Canada accounts for approximately 16% of the world's documented dinosaur findings when comparing species discovered in Canada to globally recognized dinosaur genera. Bro. Give me a percentage breakdown comparing Canada to other nations regarding dinosaur findings. I want to see who else has the best. I would wager that Africa probably has a bunch, although I don't know how much time they've spent down there actually excavating the dinosaurs. Also, how outdated is the CBC player? Sorry, just as a little side note. So I got this on my second screen, right? I'm just kind of flipping through tabs here. Okay, so they tell us that they need all this money so that they have impartial coverage and so that they can fight disinformation and misinformation and all this information, right? But their fucking video player, you don't even have an option to change the quality. You can't even pause it. You can only stop it. And when you do stop it, it gives you this fucking screen. So can I even go back? Can I rewind? Nope, can't do that. All you can do is press stop and start. That's it. And close captionings, and you can share it. That's awesome. What the fuck, dude? This is where, bro, these people have like $1 billion budget. And this is the best tool they can make? Are you serious? With the amount of engineers we get out of Waterloo, this is the best thing you can do? This is a fucking embarrassment. Let's get back to comparing dinosaurs. Sorry, I just had to get that off my chest. That's insane. They beg for hundreds of millions of dollars every year, and they give their CEOs bonuses while they lay people off. And this is the best they could do. That's great. That's awesome. Fucking hooray, CBC. So the United States have 32% global share of all dinosaur findings. China has roughly the same amount. And Canada comes third. Bro, that's not nothing. That's not nothing. Are you serious? How are we not, like, using this in more advertising? How do we just not absolutely commercialize the shit out of this? And I know that we do with amusement parks and theme parks and all this great, okay, but that's never been like, this is a fact that I'm like, I either discovered early in life and I just forgot about it, or I'm discovering it for the first time, because this is nothing short of incredible. Like, we have the third place in terms of global dinosaur supply. Bro, that's fucking sick. Are you serious? That is a massive contribution to paleontology. That's crazy. Fucking ludicrous. Luda. Where was I going? See, okay, this could be uniting. That we have the most dinosaurs. This is a great little fun fact. What, like, we have all this propaganda on how we're so nice and we're so compliant and we let all these people into our country and we accept everyone regardless of where they come from and we're a safe haven, but we can't, like, throw dinosaurs in there. Nah, man, it's time for a new age of propaganda in Canada. I'm calling it now. We are overdue for that. We need new propaganda. We need new nationalist propaganda that makes us unite over common shared interests. And dinosaurs need to be a part of that conversation. And I don't care if I get canceled for saying it. All right? I don't care. Because I want to hear more of that shit. Like, that's awesome, man. That's fucking great. Let's see if there's anything new. The CBC Watcher. Oh, this is great. Let's hear this.
We've had one additional poll close in Les Îles La Madeleine, Gaspésie, and we'll have another big dump of them at 9:30 Eastern, of course. But let's go to Adrian, who has some results. Adrian.
Well, I'm very relieved to see that Charlottetown is okay.
Good.
We're getting first results from Charlottetown. Let's have a look at that. The incumbent.
Hey, what the fuck does that mean? Why the fuck is the CBC, who's supposed to be an impartial news body, openly having one of its anchors advocate that it's okay or that it's great and that she's relieved that a riding flipped her way? And I know the answer to that question. The answer to that question is because when Pierre Poilievre gets into power, he said as much, he's going to fucking defund the CBC so that they are a shell of themselves. Or rather, non-existent. He'll keep CBC Radio, which, look, talk shit about the CBC however you want. Their radio stations on those long car rides, when you're helping somebody move provinces, or if you're just going to a different city with friends, or whatever the fuck. Some of their stuff is pretty fucking cool, man. They interview some great people. They have these nice, like, audio plays and radio plays that they put on. They have some great, like, content. Not to say that they still don't have the fucking national propaganda bullshit where they try to sneak in as much liberal talking points as they can. They obviously have that angle, but that's not the point. That's not why people listen to CBC radio. It's not for the news, in my opinion. I think it's for, like, the cool content and the cool stories that they have on there. Which, fine, they have their own bias, but they're just interesting to listen to. Like, I grew up on them, going on road trips with my family members, listening to CBC radio. It was great. I don't have any qualms with it whatsoever. I'm sure their news coverage is slanted just like their TV coverage here, because this is insane. This is, how can you say that? Like, let me play that back just so that I'm not crazy. This is insane.
We've had Adrian, who has some results. Adrian.
Well, I'm very relieved to see that Charlottetown is okay.
Good.
We're getting first results from Charlottetown.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh my god, it's so relieved. What the fuck? Yo, what the actual fuck are these people smoking? Are you serious? This is insane. They're not even hiding it anymore. They're out in the open, just laughing about it. Which is crazy because look, people that disparage the CBC get this label put on them as if they hate, not that they hate Canada, but that they're alt-right, that there's some kind of like, just there's a misalignment between their ideals that makes them the other, and that they don't share your vision for what Canada should be and try to make it the greatest country it is. Like that's essentially the messaging that it sells to people when you believe in that kind of idea. Is that the people that hate on it, they just want to destroy stuff for the sake of it, or they're greedy capitalists, or like that's not true in any shape of form. Like I'm sure there's conspiracy theorists that think that and think even more crazier fucking things, but their bias is so clear and so evident that you can't help but just laugh when you see it live on display like that. Like, oh, they're cool, great. Anchors are just laughing about who they want to win. Like, at least pretend to be impartial. Guys, you're the national. Like, we all pay into this. Why is my tax dollar going towards somebody that's speaking on behalf of a certain political group? I don't want that. If I want a national news teller, right, a news organization, I would want them to be impartial, but they can't be. You can't operate in that space and be impartial. They are obviously leaning against Carney, or sorry, against Pierre, against the Conservatives, and they're heading towards the Liberals. And here's some more proof, okay? Because people don't really see this kind of coverage on the regular, because it's not really you could really only find it on Twitter. But there was a story recently where, let me see this. Okay, that's also a great meme. That's bro. That's fucking awesome. That's great. That's just the CB for anyone listening. This is the CBC logo, which for those who don't know, it's like a circle, and then halves of the circle are on geometrically on the left, right, and the diagonal side. It's just kind of like a circle that explodes. And so somebody drew an asshole where that would be, and just put a pile of shit going out of it, which is awesome. But let me see if I can find this post, because this literally proves how the CBC, at least with this one story, is not just politically impartial. They're absolutely leaning heavily left, and they're supporting all these policies. And they want to support this party through and through. There have been moments where they have been against the Liberals. I'm not saying that those don't exist, but there is a clear bias that has been indicated over time through their mistakes, their lack of corrections, or both. And I gotta be able to find this clip, because where is what's her face? Rosie Barton. Rosie Barton. Somebody's gotta have that post, because there was a comparison. Oh, here it is. Found it. So, just to give some context to this clip, at the beginning of the campaign, when the parties were starting to announce some of the policies that they were pushing for, a lot of people started to notice that, hey, this is, for the Liberals, this is actually a lot of the stuff that Trudeau was saying, and so it seems like you guys are just simply taking his plan and slapping Carney's name on it, which is exactly what they did. It is literally exactly what they did, and they admit to it on air, like at least the CBC's coverage did. Right, the party would never, because obviously, like, that's a bad look. How could you just slide in the guy, but you keep everything, and you just press Control F and you remove Trudeau? Like that seems really extremely disingenuous, because then it's like, it's not what that person wants. It's not what the message that the person who you put up as a representative is getting behind. It's more like, this is the party line, and we're pushing it regardless of who is in it. Because during the Liberal race, this wasn't a big enough scandal, because because the media is what it is up here in Canada. But Carney because Carney had never served as a member of parliament, which you do need to do in order to run as the prime minister, because you represent a riding. So every prime minister not only runs federally, like they do in America, where everybody just like goes to the ballot box and votes for them, but they also have a riding, because they're a member of parliament. And every member of parliament has a certain riding, which is essentially like a district. Like here, let me show you here. Canada ridings map. So Canada is split into all these different ridings, in the same way that in the States, they have their districts as well. And so each politician of the federal party has their own riding that they're in. Pierre Poilievre, for example, is in Ottawa. I think it's the Carleton riding, and Kearney is... He's not Orleans. He's something... I forget Kearney's riding. Let me see if I can find it using Brave search. Nepean. Nepean, which I believe is... Yeah, so that's Nepean. And where is Carleton? I feel like Carleton is this region right here, but I could be wrong. In any case, right, each of them has a riding. And so Kearney, because he hasn't even lived in Canada for 10 years. The man has literally not lived here as a resident for 10 years because he's been in the UK and Ireland where he has passports, which he has since rescinded his citizenship, or so he has said. Because he didn't have a riding, what they did was they just pushed someone out of theirs. So there was a candidate, hold on, which MP in the Liberal Party got pushed out so that Kearney could have a riding and be eligible to run for Prime Minister. Because here's the funky story about this, right? So Kearney, like, it feels like he came out of fucking nowhere. We had kind of heard of him from here and there, working for the World Bank or working for the UK Federal Reserve or whatever their equivalent is. And then he just comes into Canada as if he's been here all the time. And everyone's like, who the fuck is this guy? He was also Justin Trudeau's financial minister for the last 5 years. So if anyone's to blame besides Trudeau and the people around him at the time for where we are now for the last 10 years of fucking stagnation, Kearney was at the base of it for 5 years, which is half their time in office, essentially. Especially, like, throughout COVID. Like, he was his financial advisor. And I understand that an advisor just simply advises, but, I mean, like, the guy was literally helping make, like, he was helping Trudeau make decisions. That was his whole thing. You're advising the Prime Minister on how to act, because he doesn't have the time to sit there and research and understand all these difficult dynamics. He has people around him that help him. And if you have a hand in that, well, you're directly responsible for what your actions and recommendations have done, which is where we are right now. And there's not really any real way to quantify this, because there's shades of gray in this, like with anything in life. But he definitely had a hand in where Canada has essentially headed for the last 5 years. To what extent? That's arguable, sure. But he has. Even if little. Like, even if it's slight. And it doesn't look like it's slight, because he wrote a book where he essentially talked about the exact same things that Trudeau was doing. If anything, Mark Carney actually went further. In any case, there's an MP, Liberal MP, called Chandra Arya, who had represented the Ottawa riding of Nepean since 2015, so 10 years. He was removed as the party's candidate to make way for Mark Carney's candidacy. The Liberal Party revoked Arya's nomination for prime ministership because he ran for prime ministership, and they revoked it in March 2021, saying in 2025, citing a review of new information as the basis of its decision. This move cleared a path for Carney, the newly elected Liberal leader, to contest the Nepean seat in the April 28th federal election. Now, here's the thing. The reason that this guy lost his seat, right, this gentleman here, Chandra Arya, he said on live television multiple times and during his campaigns that he didn't really care for learning how to speak French, and when he was asked about it, he basically responded with the same thing. Why was removed? Now, that's... Say whatever you want. As it stands right now in the way that Canada exists, French is the second language, and you can't just simply ignore a province of that size and magnitude and effectiveness and think that you're going to win the role of Prime Minister. So the fact that he was so vehemently against it kind of showed a lot of people like, okay, this guy doesn't want to play ball. And sure, there's an argument to be made here that, okay, officially our language is English and French, but like how many French speakers actually exist in Canada? And not even that, but How many French speakers exist like that because of their environment and where they live versus people that just have to learn it as a form of necessity, because everything has to be translated in English and French in Canada. Everything. Every single label, every single poster, every single, well, just about every single roadside. Depending where you are, it could just be completely in English. But when you get to Quebec, it's kind of mixed depending on where you go. In any case, there's just signage everywhere, which doesn't make sense because in downtown Toronto, nobody speaks French on a regular basis. Unless you're living with family members like that. Everything is in English. Everything. I've never heard of anybody go up to a Starbucks and not be able to speak English or want to speak French and actually go through with the interaction. Like it doesn't just happen. If I go up to the train conductor or the ticket officer or whatever, like it's all English. That's all you hear. French is like you speak about it, like you speak in that language with friends, or maybe you're going to a conference, like agreed upon areas, right? Where like people like predetermine that they're going to speak French in that space. On an everyday happenstance, it's all English. All of it. Just about everywhere you go in the city. And that's a good chunk of the country too. So this emphasis on French is very confusing. It feels like it's not done because we have a national identity and you're able to freely flip between those languages anywhere you can go in Canada. It's more like we have to appease and understand that this group of people exists within our borders, so therefore we all must learn how to speak this language. And I'm all for learning a second language. It's great. Like it's an absolutely useful skill. But French just seems to be one of those where it's not like an agreed upon thing by Canadians. It's more just like, okay, well, you're expected to learn this. That's it. So anyways. Oh, it looks like the Liberals never even cited that as the information which was reviewed by their Greenlight Committee as the reason. Wow. Okay, so they didn't disclose details. But he did draw criticism, it is also a fact, for dismissing the French language proficiency requirements and advocating policies seen as divisive. I don't know what his policies were. In any case, they just removed this guy off his post and put Carney in charge. Now, here's the other weird thing. This guy's son, right, is... His son works for a company that is tied to Mark Carney now. He has like a high position. Is it true that... Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here's the story. Here's a LinkedIn screenshot of Siddhanth Arya. And before I dox myself, I'm actually going to look this up on LinkedIn. I was about to open up a tab and look at it, but no. Where is it? Siddhanth Arya. Oh, he's since changed it. Holy shit, he actually worked at fucking Brookfield Asset Management. Jesus Christ. Oh my... Okay, Brookfield Asset Management, for those that don't know, is Carney's fund. Mark Carney ran a financial fund out of New York called Brookfield. He was... I'm pretty sure he was CEO. Hold on. Was Carney CEO of Brookfield? I don't think he was CEO, but he was like in a high position there. And they're an investment firm that have been pushing for ESG and all this social compliance strategies and the carbon tax all over the world. So he wasn't the CEO of it, sorry. He served as chair of the board and head of transition investing, meaning transitioning from fossil fuels to quote-unquote green energy. So let me get this straight. All right, this might seem a little conspiratorial, okay, but maybe it's just happenstance that the guy who was cleared to make space for the current runner of, or the current representative of the Liberal Party in the federal election, the man who was cleared to make sure that Carney could have a seat an automatic seat in part. Like, he wasn't elected. He, like, there wasn't a pre-election where they got rid of Chandra and then held an election to see if people would pick Carney. No, they just removed him, and the party installed Carney in that district. Now, I don't know about you and what that says about democracy, but that doesn't make me feel too good about due process and voting rights. I understand that the party has, like, lateral moves when it comes to that kind of stuff, but, like, that on the face of it looks corrupt as shit. And then, when they kick out this guy from his riding and they install Carney, news also comes out that for the last 8 years, the man who they kicked out, his son, has been working for Carney's fund. That just, the whole thing just smells fishy as shit. Like, how does any of that make sense? How are they able to get away with that? I just on the face of it, how are the news not covering this? How has there been no news stories? Why am I learning about this on fucking Twitter from an account, an anon account that has 25k followers? That's fucking weird, man. That's really fucking weird. That's really fucking weird that I'm learning about this on Twitter. So in any case, that whole story, mind you, I've been explaining this fucking context for like 20 minutes now. This is how deep rooted the issues are in Canada, because you start pulling on one thread and it just unlocks this whole other world and series of events where you're like, holy shit, this is insane. And this move, this political strategizing, allowed the Liberals to have a candidate to run in the election. And as a direct result of that, here we are. Right? So, all of that context, right? Carney gets in. He goes for the leadership race, obviously. The party just pushes him through. And the Liberal Party, mind you, this year, they lowered voting requirements to age 14. And I can prove that, because this is publicly available information. Anybody, Google, can look this up. What requirements did the Liberals lower or add in their latest leadership race? They made it so that non-citizens could vote. So you could become a member of the Liberal Party as a non-citizen of this country and have a voice in who is chosen to be Prime Minister. There was like 140k people that voted for Carney, or I think voted total, and 80% of them went for Carney. So the Prime Minister that we have right now, as it stands, Mark Carney, is not like, none of that was fucking democratic. Yeah, so voter eligibility restrictions. Only Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and individuals with Indian Act status could vote, excluding non-resident Canadians. Okay. You know what? I think I just fact-checked myself in real time. Because I've heard that they allowed non-citizens to vote. So if I'm actually getting corrected, this is good. I would much rather be correct when I say that and have a better understanding of reality than to just spout fucking bullshit. 350k registration fee to enter the race. Yeah. But they tightened the rules on who is eligible to vote in the race after concerns were raised that anyone with a Canadian address over the age of 14 could potentially vote. To participate in this election process, you must be registered as a Liberal member before January 27th, be at least 14 years of age, and be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or have status. 14 years old. Are you fucking kidding me? We're watching Minecraft movies when we're 14. Okay, we're watching fucking YouTube poops. And playing Call of Duty. And eating Doritos. And doing whatever the fuck else. Skipping class or playing in the yard. Like, what the 14 years old? Bro. That's nuts. That's fucking crazy. So in any case, right, so they have their voter election. Now how many, you know what, before we even get into that, how many people voted for Carney in the leadership race? Because I'd like to know how many Canadians actually decided the fate of Canada. Let's see what they say. $150,000 registered Liberals participated. 92% turnout. 85% of 150,000. 1 second. Let's see this. 130,000 Canadians decided who our prime minister is. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh. That is a hell of a statistic, man. That is a hell of a fucking statistic. Holy shit. So in any case, right, the Liberal Party, they choose this guy because obviously it seems as though he was chosen. We obviously don't know for a fact, but it certainly fucking looks like it. They choose him, and then when they give him the platform, or when he comes up with the platform, or however they say he came up with it, a lot of people are like, hey, this is bizarrely similar to what Trudeau was talking about. And you also have the majority of his cabinet. Like, how many members of Trudeau's cabinet, which is the ministers that he has around him, these are the people that advise him and hold certain positions of all these different organizations and boards within the government, went on to become part of the Carney campaign. Let's see here. Because I think it was at least half that I know of. Not to mention that Mark Carney is Chrystia Freeland's son's godfather. So 16 members of Justin Trudeau's cabinet endorsed Mark Carney during the 2025 Liberal leadership race. Foreign Affairs Minister, Environmental Minister, Transport Minister, Defense Minister. So they endorsed. Okay, but how many are part of his current team? I don't need endorsements. Tell me how many are actually part of his election team. Endorsements are one thing, but I actually need to know his team members. Oh, wow. Retained 8 members of Justin Trudeau's final cabinet in his election campaign while sidelining 18 others. So it's not 0, and it's not 5, and it's not 3. It's fucking 8. 8 out of 18. Well, sorry, 8 out of, my mistake, that's bad math. 8 out of 24. So a quarter. And so when this topic came up, right, there were a lot of similarities between him and what Trudeau wanted to do. Like, hey, what separates you from Trudeau? Why are you not the same as the shitbag that has effectively put our country towards a path of self-immolation? What makes you so different? Right? And he said, oh, well, my policies and my beliefs. And I'm not Trudeau. That's what he set up on that debate stage. Well, there was some very interesting coverage where a CBC commentator was talking about the plan, and they just casually dropped the fact that it was written for Trudeau, and there was no backtracking whatsoever when they initially mentioned it. And then when it was brought up again by a conservative pundit, the CBC did quote official quote unquote official fact check saying that no, it's actually very different, and that's a conservative talking point. So here, listen to the clip for yourself and decide.
Liberal platform, frankly, that's something I will say that has been ready for several weeks now. Mona Fortier was the one who was working on this, and it was ready before Mark Carney even became Liberal leader. So, you know, he only Liberal platform.
Oh, it was ready before Mark Carney was leader. So if Trudeau had stayed on, then I would wager that means that would have been Trudeau's platform. And here we have the CBC denying this exact same thing that they advocated for initially when it was brought up by somebody who had a different opinion than them.
To say to at least a portion of the pro-change voters, this is change. I don't think that's very credible. Same team, the platform was a Trudeau platform. It's the same.
That's not true. It was a Carney platform. It was not written for Justin Trudeau. That is simply not true.
Listen, this is a matter of, is that an objective CBC fact check statement? I think
Yes.
Subjectively,
Yes.
what I will say is...
You can say it subjectively, but objectively it is accurate to say that
It reads to me like a Trudeau platform.
Well, that's fine. It can read that way, but that is not...
I don't know. I guess it reads to the CBC differently, but it reads to me like a Trudeau platform, which is to say to...
Oh, yeah. Like, what the fuck, dude? This isn't like a matter of like months or like years that they've been like, this clip is a couple weeks old. That initial clip that you heard there. This is like the CBC backtracking on what it said in real time. And this isn't even the worst one. The worst one was when the issue of the graves was talked about. Of the native graves that were found at the at the various indigenous schools. Right, so at the end of I believe it was the French debate. Actually, you know what? Quick context time. I promise this won't take 20 minutes. Back in like 2019 or 2020 or something, Canada residential school scandal. It was during COVID. Let's see if we can find... Unmarked graves. Where is this? No, come on. No, there's gotta be Wikipedia for this. There's no way there isn't a page for this. It's just the system? Really? And I don't want to use Wikipedia as the primary source because Wikipedia has plenty of its own biases. I would like to find a news story about this. 2014, 2019. No. What, is Google going to give me better results? Is there really no Wikipedia page on? That's very strange that there's no Wikipedia page that's just dedicated to this. Okay, so in any case, in 2021 or in 2020, wait, where is this? Where is this? Come on. $2025. Okay. No, there's no way. I need to establish a timeline here. When were the first mass graves, undocumented graves found in Canada during the recent scandal? Long story short, back in Canada's old days when people were supremely racist and hateful towards Indians and saw them as subhuman, and by Indians I mean Native Canadians, they created a system called the residential school system where they would essentially take kids from native families and tribes and forcefully relocate them to schools on Catholic church grounds where they would essentially beat, in some cases, rape, uh, and essentially not full on 24/7 torture, but they essentially tried to eradicate the native identity of these people by forcing them to adopt uh, Christo-Anglan ideals, Western ideals, essentially, and language. They taught them enough to be in the service industry and to work in that industry to teach them to be subservient to English and Irish and just traditionally like Canadians. And this system was it was horrific, absolutely horrific what these people went through. And those that tried to escape were left to wander in the most famous story on train tracks, just trying to find their families and find a way back home as fucking kids. I mean, this shit was no doubt atrocious. The way that the government and the church conspired to, and by conspired, I don't mean to say conspiracy, but it's more to indicate that there was cooperation among them. They cooperated to do this in such an active and forceful way that destroyed people for decades, and is a good reason, a sizable reason for why the native population is where it is today in Canada. That's not even to mention their treatment before residential schools, but that was like the highlight of the scandal. So at one of these schools, right, in June 2021, they found what they believed were unmarked graves, right? They used some new form of LiDAR or some shit. Like, what is it that they actually found? What technology was used for the discovery? I'm actually curious now. So they kept finding these mass graves around these sites. Not mass graves, but undocumented graves. Or what they thought were undocumented graves. Because to this day, even on Wikipedia, as it says, and I'll find other sources if I have to, but even Wikipedia says that as of April 2025, no bodies have been exhumed from the suspected grave sites, largely due to a lack of community consensus on whether to investigate detected anomalies at the risk of disturbing burials. Sure. You're going to make the claim that there's thousands of bodies strewn across Canada in unmarked graves, and you're not even going to check, like, even one? Are we not doing an investigation? If we actually want to hold people to account and do the victims right, do we not owe it to them to have absolute certain proof of this being true? Because if it's not, then we're just parading these people, not on just the Canadian stage, but the national stage, or sorry, the international stage. This scandal went global. It was massive. It was making news everywhere for a little bit. I'm not saying it was front page news in New York Times for weeks, but there were stories popping up in different news organizations across the world about this. And as it should, right? But there was never any burden of proof. So they use ground penetrating radar, right? And just so that, like, because this is a point of contention. A lot of people think that any kind of questioning of this, at least here in Canada, they think, oh, well, you want to dig up a bunch of dead bodies of kids? You're fucked. Like, why would you ever do that? Why can't you just take these people at their word? Well, because governments will use shit like this to push forward policies or agendas or what have you, and pretend that they care, because they don't fucking care. They don't care. You think Trudeau loses sleep at night? You think really he gives so much of a shit about the Native community that he's restless, that he's just beset by anguish? Like, really? This guy or any of those people that are involved in pushing this story, they care so much about the Native cause? Really? And I'm not even trying to be cynical. I'm saying that as a fact. Like, do you really think that their self-interests dominate anything else? And I would wager no. No. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They really do not. They will use any and every opportunity to get themselves ahead in their world, whether it's in politics or economics or what have you. Whatever game they're playing, they want to try to get ahead. And coming out as a bleeding heart liberal for this kind of cause is perfect. It gives you the perfect moral shielding. Oh my God, how dare you? How dare you question the fact that residential schools happened? Nope, that's not what people are doing. But that's certainly the reaction that people got when anytime they were like, hey, how's about we actually, I don't know, dig one up? Just to be sure, like, hey, like let's be sure. Because here's the thing. I think it was one place in Saskatchewan where they actually like tried to get some soil samples or just try to get a better idea. What they found was sewage. It was a sewage system. And let me fact check that to make sure that I'm not just fucking spewing bullshit out of my mouth. No pun intended. Let's see if this is real, because this is also something that I've heard on the internet. Obviously, haven't been there, haven't dug up the soil myself. I'm not, what's his face? That fucking guy that went on the Joe Rogan recently. I'm not a quote unquote expert. Oh, here we go. The claim that one site initially thought to contain unmarked graves at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School was actually a septic field is supported by archival evidence and post-discovery analysis. Here's a breakdown. In 1924, a 2,000 linear foot septic field with trenches lined with clay tiles was installed in the Kamloops School to dispose of sewage. These trenches were approximately 3.5 feet deep and ran east-west beneath what later became an apple orchard. Ground-penetrating radar used in 2021 detected soil anomalies at this site, but could not distinguish between septic trenches and potential graves, as both create similar subsurface disturbances. Archaeologist Sarah Bilo, I apologize if I mispronounced that, who conducted the initial GPR survey, was reportedly unaware of the septic field's existence during her work. The east-west orientation and shallow depth of the anomalies aligned with the septic system's layout, leading to speculation that they were graves. Wow! So what initially was thought to be the bones of dead children turned out to be piles of shit, which if that is not poetic, I don't know what is. This huge scandal that led to the burnings of hundreds of churches across Canada. Let me show you the site of this. Canada burned churches map. This is as of 2024. This was last updated. Hundreds of churches were attacked by arson across Canada in response to this. The statues were torn down. Toronto Metropolitan University, which is one of the biggest universities in Toronto, used to be called Ryerson. And they changed their name because they didn't want the association with Ryerson's legacy, which was founded, from my understanding, he was involved somehow in residential schools. Let me just confirm that so I don't just sound like a fucking retard. Like, my point is, right, this whole scandal starts with, oh my God, there's graves, and we know for a certainty there's graves, and we should all be ashamed of what the government and the church did to these people. Now, there's truth in that because they should absolutely be ashamed of what they did to these people. Absolutely. That goes without fucking saying. That's how I started this whole fucking bit off. Is that they absolutely mistreated these people, and that is putting it extremely fucking lightly. I could not imagine what it must have been like to have your entire culture wiped out and have it done by children getting ripped away from their fucking parents. Like, that would kill any person on the inside. That is insane that they've managed to persevere for so long despite all this fucking aggression and force that the government has expended upon them. It's crazy. It's nothing short of a fucking miracle that these people have kept going for so long when their quality of life has been decided by people that live far away, and now they're dealing with the consequences of it. Like, it's just, it's insane. It's insane. I could not even imagine what that must have been like to go through that. But in any case, right? So Egerton Ryerson, who is named the university in Toronto, that is now named Toronto Metropolitan University, or TMU, they used to be called Ryerson. So there's, okay, according to this, it says it's his role in the system is subject to debate, but he did propose agricultural boarding schools combining manual labor with academic and religious instruction to be built, and he envisioned assimilation to the Euro-Canadian society. His model emphasized segregated education to Christianize and civilize Indigenous children. I mean, there's no way of there's no way of defending that, and fine, that's the time and place that they lived in that time. I'm not saying that I don't understand why somebody would think this. I get, in the historical context, it makes sense that somebody of his stature would do that. That doesn't take away from the tragedy and how awful it is, but you have to recognize historical context. Like, we can't just look through this like lens of, oh, these people are demons, because then we'll never actually get to the bottom of the truth of their ideals and understand that, so that we don't have to make the same fucking mistakes again. That's a crucial part of it. It's the same way how like people judge any sort of like authoritarian seeming thing or right-wing seeming thing as Trump affiliated or fascist affiliated or far-right affiliated. Like, you're taking this demon from the past and you're revitalizing it in a way that actually cheapens what you're talking about, because all it does is it shows that you misunderstand what is actually going on. Demonizing it is not going to get you to understand why this dynamic exists. It's just going to allow you to dismiss it and to not actually have to argue for your position. You're just, oh, why would I bother arguing with somebody who voted for Trump? They fucking believe in fascism or whatever the fuck. Like, that just, it completely makes the whole argument moot, and it doesn't do anything to progress any kind of level of not just civic, but any kind of discourse, any kind of discussion. It just shuts it down. So all of this, right? So Ryerson's legacy, and the Toronto University changes their name. All these statues get turned down, burned down, tossed down, spray painted. At the height of COVID, this was essentially like our quote unquote George Floyd moment, where people like went ape shit and were anti-colonialist. It's like, okay, fine, be angry at it, rage at it, sure, I understand. And there has to be some kind of course correction so that we don't just slip back into these ideals and whatnot. Like, I feel like we've evolved enough of a society that this isn't really happening anytime soon. There's not really any land to colonize at this point, unless we want to do it through force, which is not happening. But the fact that this was seen as some kind of like revolutionary moment, as if people were like waking up to the injustices of the past, like what does this accomplish? What does this actually accomplish? You torn down a statue of somebody who, whether you like it or not, built Canada. And understanding the legacy through a nuanced lens is going to get you much farther than just seeing everything that they did as bad and awful, and that should not be in any way, not maybe celebrated, but like understood that there was a contributing force that actually built Canada. Whether you like it or not, we were built on taking advantage of the natives, and you have to make your peace with that. And if making your peace with it means you go out and you riot, well, like, you're not helping anyone. You're not doing anybody a service. You're just taking the angers of people's past and you're revitalizing them for what? And anybody that questions it is automatically a Nazi or right wing or whatever. Like, that doesn't make much sense to me. Right? So all of this context, because I would imagine that anybody listening to this still, for the majority, doesn't live in Canada and may not have a history of this. All of this context, right? All of this hate and rage and just pure emotional power that got unleashed that one summer, and I think the summer after as well. Hundreds of churches burned for fucking what? For sewage? And not a single amount of remains has been found. And there was even an article in the CBC. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. CBC article discussing how a native group or people think the residential school scandal is not being covered truthfully or is not helpful to understanding what really happened. Find me the... Because I do remember reading an article where like a native group came out and said like, this is actually like, this is so counterintuitive. Why are we doing this? Why are we why are we throwing out the baby with the bathwater? It just didn't make any sense. Oh, now this is talking about residential school denialism, which they also wanted to make illegal at one point. Hold on. Was there an MP that argued to make residential school denialism an illegal act? Because I'm pretty sure there was. Yeah, this is all talking about denialism. Whoever's denying that residential schools happen just hasn't read enough. That's like it's not that they're stupid. It's that they're not aware of it. Like if you just put them through like some documentaries and you hear testimony from people that actually went through this stuff, which we did see in school at times, it's beyond heartbreaking. It's awful. The experiences that they detail. There's even a famous song that talks about this story between these two kids that get out and they follow the train tracks to the next city, and it's in the middle of winter, and I think either they both died or one of them died, which I think it's a true story. In any case, I wouldn't be surprised if things like that happened. And yes, there was an MP, a member of parliament for the NDP party, who introduced Bill C-413 in September 2024, seeking to criminalize residential school denialism under the criminal code. This bill would make it illegal to publicly condone, deny, downplay, or justify the harms of residential schools with penalties of up to 2 years in jail for violations. They wanted to fucking jail people for having differing opinions. Whatever you say about residential school denialism, whatever the opinion is, whatever the public opinion is in the Overton window is, anybody should be free to deny that it happened. Not because I believe or I agree with those people, but because you should have enough freedom of speech laws that justify people for saying stupid shit. Because there's always going to be people that say stupid shit or shit that's wrong. You can't just criminalize speech that you think is wrong. Because to those people, it's real. And anybody that argues for otherwise, they don't understand how that can be used against them. Like, if you enable government with these powers, just because it's your party, like, do you really think that that's going to stay forever? Because now the next administration that comes in, if they don't agree with your views, they're going to use the exact same framework that you used or that you benefited from, that benefited your side. Now it's going to be used against you or a group that you're a part of. Like, just because people think that, oh, this is good, like, we need to, we absolutely, I'm agreeing with them. We need to have less of these people or less of people talking about this. But the way that you do that isn't by penalizing them with fucking jail time at the end of a gun. The way you do that is by talking with these people, by educating them, by sitting down and showing them these documentaries and videos of people that have survived these awful, beyond awful, indescribable circumstances. Like, could you imagine going to a school where you're not even allowed to speak your native tongue? You're forced to adopt those values or get beaten by adults and you're powerless? And you have to conform to the system where you're subservient to the white man? Bro, that would break you. Fundamentally. You're crushing the human spirit of somebody who has different ideals and a different culture. It's one thing to assimilate by fucking watching Tom and Jerry and learning how to speak English and coming to this country voluntarily. It's another thing to be ripped from your parents and be forced to live in a place that's unfamiliar to you. You don't know the language, you don't know these people, and yet you're forced to go through the system. Like there's nothing more I can say that could in any way picture it any differently besides an absolute fucking horror show. An inhumane act. But that doesn't mean that anybody who disagrees with that or doesn't agree with it should go to jail. It's the same thing with Nazis. Like, people can celebrate and parade in the streets and all that. It's like, okay, but we know those people are retards. And we need to make sure that they're out in public, because if they're at least out in public, like, we know who they are. We know how many numbers they have. We understand their beliefs. The moment that you try to put these people in a box or make it so that they only speak on Signal or in secret Facebook chats or WhatsApp chats or forums where the public doesn't have access to it, that's when those people multiply. That's when those kind of beliefs have an echo chamber and they just build and build and build and build. But if it's out in the open, we can ridicule them. We can propose an opposed vision. There's an argument to be had. There's a dialogue. And as long as your argument is convincing enough, you can defeat theirs. And the argument against residential school denialism is pretty fucking strong. I mean, if I ever met somebody like that, I would not be surprised if they believed in chemtrails. And I mean, like not that we don't seed clouds or anything like that. I mean, like, the crazy, like, tinfoil hat end of chemtrails, that the government is purposefully putting chemicals in the air when every plane that has a stream like that in order to, I don't know. I don't even know what the end game of chemtrails is. That's how far out I am with this shit. I have no fucking clue what their actual end game is with that. But those people should be able to have their stupid opinions. By all means, let them be out in the open. It's much better than having to sequester them to certain areas of society that aren't accessible to the public. Like, no, this should be out in the open. You should be able to talk about it. And this fucking person comes in with this, I mean, essentially communist. Like, this would be a perfect law during communism in Russia or wherever. Which I know seems kitschy to say, but what is this if not authoritarian? You're denying people's speech on a certain topic if they disagree with you on it. That's insane. Right? So all of that, right, was the background to this shit. So people make a big whoop out of this news story, and then everybody goes crazy, burning churches down. Not everybody, but the good chunk of the population goes out and riots out in the street and tears down statues and calls for the changing of names of schools and universities, as if changing that is going to erase the history somehow and absolve us of our sins. This collective struggle moment where everybody, quote unquote, came together. And so then the government also instilled a day, what is it? Is it Indigenous Remembrance Day? No. Indigenous Day, Canada. I forget what it's called. National Indigenous Peoples Day. The Trudeau government created this holiday called the National Indigenous Peoples Day. Right, so they created this holiday to not appease the people that were hating, or maybe it was to appease them, but it was to give Canadians something to unite against and to say, hey, we're done with that section of our history and we're moving forward and we're going to have a day where we all get together and think about it. So guess what Trudeau did on the first day when he did that? What did Trudeau do on the first National Indigenous Peoples Day? Let's stop that one. Let's make a new one. You'll never guess what he did. You'll never, in a million years, you'll never guess what he did. Because this really opened up my eyes about what the people in power are really like. This was an absolute, like, this was the easily one of the most disgraceful parts of this whole scandal was the fact that Justin Trudeau, when he was the one that created this holiday and pushed it through as a law, I'm pretty sure, or whatever the legal infrastructure is to make this a holiday. So that, like, people, I'm pretty sure it was like a nationally paid holiday too, so that if you didn't work, you get paid for it. Trudeau visited. No. That's in 2024. News story about Trudeau going on vacation during National Indigenous Peoples Day. During National Indigenous Peoples Day of the first year that Trudeau created the holiday, he went on fucking vacation with his family. Even though he was invited across Canada to various Indigenous communities and businesses to go and speak with them and meet with them and sit down with them and actually embrace what the meaning of this, not holiday, but what this day was about. In 2021, it was established. Initially, his schedule stated that he was in Ottawa for private meetings, but then he was photographed vacationing with his family in fucking Tofino. Tofino, which I'm pretty sure is in British Columbia. And as you can see, they got fucking resorts and hotels here. Oh, great. He was at a fucking resort on a beach. You want further proof? By all means. Wow. Trudeau spends First Truth and Reconciliation Day in Tofino on vacation, contradicting his itinerary. So he's glad to sit down with a fucking teddy bear at the quote-unquote residential grave sites with an orange shirt pin. Right? He's glad to use that photo op, kneeling. But then on the first day of this holiday, he's fucking photographed with his family on a beach. Yeah, I'm getting the sense these people literally don't give a shit about us. I'm getting a strong feeling that they actually don't fucking care. And that they just do as they please, and that everyone else around them and every opportunity around them is just a pawn that they can move around. Like, this is just diabolical. How could you possibly in any way defend this? I genuinely don't understand. Maybe diabolical isn't the right word, but I genuinely don't understand how, as a prime minister, you create the fucking holiday, and then on the first year of the holiday, like, you know what's gonna happen. You push the law. It's been all over the news. And you decide to go on a vacation. And, like, just none of this made sense. And now we find out that those were actually sewage sites. And this leads me to finally the only time in my memory that Canadian media, especially the CBC, has recognized this as a fact, because they were pushing this shit. They were pushing this story. Not the fact that he was on vacation. I'm sure they covered it at some point briefly. But they were treading so much water for Trudeau that they were fully on board with this residential school scandal. They were reporting, like, new cases every week of where they would find scans. But none of it actually confirmed whether or not they found bodies or whether they were actual bodies. It's just they seemed like graves. So then, leading up to this election, after the debate, this is what happens. Immediately after the French election. Or sorry, the French debate.
I think we have to sort of address the elephant in the room. How are these people chosen to answer these questions? And I don't know if either one of you have an answer for that, but I think there will be people at home saying, some of these seem like odd questions. Some of them aren't getting answered. How come we've heard so often from this one particular outlet? Any idea what's going on there?
There's three right-wing, very right-wing media, we can call them media, websites that are present in there. They get in line to ask a question like anybody else. Their accreditation has been approved by the Commission of Debates, and so they get the right to stand in line and ask a question that they choose to ask. In this case, you saw Mr. Singh, and this has been his position for some time, to refuse to answer questions. Rebel News in particular traffics in misinformation, facts, lack of facts, and as you heard in that question, which was woven with some truth and some things that weren't true. Yes, there have been burnings of Christian Catholic churches. Yes, there have been remains of Indigenous children found in various places around the country, which she misrepresented. We'll see if Mr. Poiliev gets any questions from churches. Yes, there have been remains of Indigenous children found in various places around.
You heard that, right? You heard that. Everyone heard that. Everyone listening heard that. She just claimed, right? Rosemary Barton or whatever her fucking name is. just claimed that, yes, yeah, there have been actually remains found. And she's a main anchor on CBC. She shows up just about every single day covering politics. So she's been around. She understands the landscape of this scandal. She understands the details. If you've been covering it for this long, and if she doesn't, then who the fuck put you in charge? Who the fuck gave you that job if you're not aware of what's actually happened? And here she is live on TV immediately after a debate treading water for this story that has actually been a nothing burger because they found fucking nothing. Let me just repeat that.
And some things that weren't true. Yes, there have been burnings of Christian Catholic churches. Yes, there have been remains of Indigenous children found in various places around the country, which she misrepresented. We'll see if Mr. Poiliev gets any questions from right-wing organizations. I would suspect no.
Oh, I'm glad he's laughing. That's great.
Okay. All right. Let's have a listen. Here.
Yeah, let's have a listen. Are you serious? And so immediately after this, right, the great thing about having national media and emphasis on great, fucking Christ, you can write a letter to I believe it's the ombudsman of the CBC, who overlooks fact checks and any kind of truth or misinformation or disinformation or whatever fucking is information word they want to use, right? You can write to them and you can complain and you can say, hey, that was some bullshit. You guys actually need to check your facts on this because you're actually wrong. And they will issue corrections. Except what they will do is they will not actually post this correction in any meaningful way. What they do is they just post it on the site that you can simply just keep track of, and it's all in text. They don't actually go on the air and say, hey, yesterday we covered this. We were actually wrong, so here is the truth. Which you would expect a national media body to actually be able to do. All it would take to correct that is 30 seconds every 4 hours, and then it becomes a viral clip on Twitter, and people clip it, and they share it, and that's it. So even if you're worried about this not getting out or not enough people seeing it, at least do your part to fucking correct the record, which they didn't, right? So let me find the post that actually talked about this. Because the CBC ombudsman was written about this, right? And they did eventually issue a correction saying that since the start of this scandal, no bodies have been found. That no proof that there were ever bodies found at these sites, which is their claim. If that's the claim that you're making, then you would expect to have some fucking proof behind it. Now, bear with me while I check out CBC Watcher, because I need to find this. This is incredible. This is the first time that they've ever had to admit that that they were wrong about this, and they never actually did it in any significant way. I think it's Rosemary Barton, right? Oh, here it is. Here's the live corrections page. Why would I bother showing you a clip? Here it is. April 17th, they issued this correction. On April 16th, during a live broadcast following the French language federal election leaders debate on CBC News Network, let me just blow this up here. Chief political correspondent Rosemary Barton said, yes, there have been remains of Indigenous children found in various places across the country. As CBC News has reported on multiple occasions, what several Indigenous communities across Canada have discovered on the sites of some former residential schools are potential burial sites or unmarked graves. So they're not even fully coming out and saying we haven't found shit, and she just said we found shit, which actually isn't true. Put it in the plainest terms, right? They're saying that, oh, we've always reported on multiple occasions that some communities of some former residential schools have potential. There's 3 layers to these maybes. What the fuck is this? Just report the facts. That's all we ask. And I apologize to anyone that's getting annoyed or mad about me ranting about this shit, but like this is what it means to live in Canada, is that when you look closer to just about any major story, you actually find that there's a lot of fuckery and that there's a lot of people that are misleading people on purpose for their own gain, whether it's political or economic, and that the people are getting taken advantage of. In my opinion, this scandal did untold damage to the Native community and their reputation in Canada. Because this allowed for a lot of people to point their finger and say, hey, you guys are just nonstop hooting and hollering about this shit, but you haven't found anything, and now you're tearing down what used to be Canadian icons and cultural landmarks and all these people that we once recognized for being founders of Canada. And whether you like it or not, with their, like, not even, complicated isn't even the word for it. I struggle to find a word in the same way that I'm sure people could struggle to find a word about the founding fathers and how they owned slaves. Like, yeah, they absolutely did atrocious things, and yet at the same time, they helped build their nation. Same thing here in Canada. And we have to reconcile with that. That's the whole point of reconciliation, in my opinion. How do you reconcile with the fact that these people built the country that we enjoy today, and yet they were absolutely mistreating and hurting and killing and suppressing all these people in their culture? Like, it's not black and white. You can't look at it like that. It's just endless shades of gray, no matter where you look. And that's a more realistic way of looking at an issue. But the CBC is clearly stating they're defending their anchor as much as possible. Even though the truth, like, people have already written about this, that there were sewage sites, and there's no actual proof of any bodies being buried. So, like, I could go on about this for hours, okay? The CBC has done fucking nothing but mislead the Canadian public, just like journalists and corporate journalists especially have been doing for fucking eons. And it seems like independent journalists are coming out of the woodwork and actually doing some great coverage, because most of these stories, okay, notice that I haven't cited any, like, actual newspaper, except maybe Global News that had that one article. These are all from independent people. This is people just tweeting this. They just happen to be watching the CBC, they catch a clip, and they're like, hey, that's some bullshit. And then they point it out by showing some other coverage that they did years ago to say, hey, you guys are actually hypocrites. And the national body that we pay into, the news body that is supposed to not only be representing Canadians and what we want for our nation, but holding holding authority to account by using truth. They're lying to us, actively lying to us. And if this is what they're doing with these major stories, what am I led to believe is their coverage and what is their slant? What is their approach to covering other stories? Why am I supposed to believe you on X if Y, Z, A, B, C, D, fucking all of that has been fake? And that's not to say the CBC doesn't do good coverage, or that they don't have good journalists, or that they're not capable of showing different perspectives of a story. Of course they are. Of course they are. Any national crisis or anything bad that happens, I usually go to them first just to at least understand some basic facts. But then I immediately get off because of the fucking Pedialyte commercial, because the CBC is a bloated carcass that's operating on fucking boomer bucks. Because they can't find the young audience. Because they're getting lapped by fucking Joe Rogan and kids with webcams playing fucking Minecraft with their numbers. Because their media player for their live stream of the most influential election to date doesn't even have a fucking pause button. They're dinosaurs. These people are relics, and they don't have our interest at heart. That's why this shit is so infuriating, because when real shit goes down, when all these scandals go down, like, I haven't even covered the fucking convoy and what the CBC did to those people. That's a whole other fucking 3-hour episode that I can do easily. Because I know somebody that was on the ground there, and they showed me footage of what it was actually like. And I've seen YouTubers walk through the crowds and talk to people and interviews and all these live streams as it was happening. And people that I had met in my own city that were supporting the convoy. And that it was nowhere near what the coverage of the corporate media was, or the national media was. And that's just yet another example. If you go even back further, I'm sure you could find more. So this, like, This trend keeps going and going and going, and they're clearly not doing their job in representing the voices of the people or fighting for the people in any significant way. And they absolutely need to be removed from power. Absolutely. Like, this is insane. To be a national news organization that's supposed to tell the truth, and this is your angle of coverage. It's disgusting. It's frankly disgusting that this is even a problem that people have to contend with. So, all that ranting aside, let's check out some stats. Let's see what's going on. So according to this stream from Juno News, which used to be called True North, they're worth a read. Once again, another independent media outlet. It's actually fairly big. They did have Pierre Poilievre's wife on earlier, just to give an idea of like their scale. They're able to get like the wives of party heads to actually come on the show, and maybe Pierre might even come on the show later. We'll see. But so far, Liberals leading with 86, Conservatives have 64 seats. The NDP laughably have 1. The Bloc have 13, which I would assume means Quebec is tallied up. Let me see if I can find an actual map of all that's been reported. Looks like the Northwest Territories voted Liberal. That is nuts. Or they're voting Liberal. Oh my God. Okay, yet again another clouding on CBC. I can't even zoom out far enough on this map to show me the entirety of Canada. I have to scroll down and up. Just this is insane. Holy fuck. These people, what's the budget of the CBC? Now I'm actually curious. What's the budget of the CBC? Because that surely would be something. I'm pretty sure it's like $1 billion. It's got to be $1 billion. Holy shit, 1.38 billion. Oh my God. These people get $1 billion and they can't even make a proper fucking website. Oh God. Legendary. Let's see here. 1.29 billion. Or sorry, 1.38 billion. Basically 1.4 billion. Cool. These people get 1.4 billion for this shit. That's great. That's fan-fucking-tastic. For this fucking shit website where I can't even zoom out on the map or just have a big enough map and allow me to zoom in on my own purport. Like, what the fuck, man? And the number, like, I can't even, like... Oh my God, as I scroll through this, it zooms in on the map because the edges of this thing are, like, all the... What the fuck? This is so poorly designed. Oh my goodness. And then you have to click in and it automatically zooms you in instead of just showing you the fucking thing so I can look through. Okay, this is... Oh God. All right. So the popular votes so far, 51% Liberal, 42% Conservative. No resulting in their ridings. Bloc Québécois. Of course easily. Yeah, they're going to win their ridings. They're going to win their respective ridings. Otherwise, they wouldn't be the candidate. Oh, sorry, my mistake. This is for Newfoundland. What about Ontario? Neck and neck for Ontario. Interesting. Can we just get all of Canada? I can't get... Bro, are you serious? Can I see the percentage of the popular vote for the entirety of Canada? I can't even do this? My God. Yeah, this is a little bit nutty. I can't believe the website is this fucking bad. There's not even that much customization. All right. Cool, whatever. I'll stop griping about it. Let's see. How much of the election is yet to go? Let's tune into this stream for a little bit and hear what they're saying.
Hear your thoughts on Vancouver Island, which is set to change entirely. There might be one riding.
Okay, well, they're just doing their coverage. Let's not. If people want to go there, by all means, head to Juno News. They got some great coverage there. Certainly with an angle. Obviously, they're conservative leaning. But I like to think that at least there's someone out there talking about this shit, conservative or otherwise. So can I, besides the CBC, there's got to be like, there's got to be another website, like Global News, maybe? They should have the election coverage in a visible enough way. So 195 of 343 seats are reported. So 8% of polls are reported. Oh, dude, we got a ways to go. Unless that number is going to fucking skyrocket all of a sudden. We got a ways to go. All right. So they've counted basically 1 million votes so far. Or just above 1 million. And population of Canada, last I checked, is 40 million. So we are long ways to go. Oh, see? This... Okay. How is it that Global News can come up with a better fucking map that allows me to actually zoom out? And when I highlight over it, it actually tells me who leads by how many votes and how many polls are... See, this is so much better. If Global News could do it, why can't our national media do it? Let's see what Toronto's calling for. Oh, wow. There's so few polls that are reporting still. This is nuts. I wonder who's actually... Okay, so I guess the more colored they get, the more polls are reported. 82 out of 85. Okay, so these are actually called. These are the ones that we can call. Conservative, conservative. 248. Okay, well, he's basically... Yeah, that's going all conservative. All of Nova Scotia is conservative. Except that little part. That's liberal. Okay. So yeah, so we have a very, very long ways to go. The night is not over yet. Last polls that I saw were showing essentially the liberals and the conservatives neck and neck, whereas like 3 months ago the conservatives actually had like an outsized lead against them. Which I don't know what to make of, besides the fact that as soon as Trump came along, the entire focus of the Liberal Party was, let's not talk about Trudeau and our accomplishments. Let's talk about how much of a baddie Trump is, and we need to defeat him because Trump is orange man bad, and he's throwing tariffs at us. Which, like, I'm not trying to downplay that. Trump has certainly had a strong effect on, or has the potential to have a strong effect on our economy, being, I'm pretty sure, our greatest trading partner. So I'm not being ignorant to his ability to fuck shit up for Canada, but to make him the center stage of your political campaign, instead of actually talking about the crises that we're in, is demonstrably awful. And sure, Carney like touched on the housing crisis and all that and affordability, but like there's not enough self-reflection to say, hey, I had a hand in that, because obviously that's not a popular thing to run on. I did this, or I played a role in it, and I want to make amends, which would have been a piss poor message, because all the conservatives would have had to do was say, look, they're even admitting to it. Like, do you really want to give them a fourth term? Why would they? So yes, I understand why they chose Trump. It's just like, once again, fucking sneaky politics. Just trying to get the upper advantage of your opponent at just about any means necessary. So they put Trump as like the figurehead, and so that's allowed them to get their lead with retarded slogans like "elbows up." I don't know who here has heard of this, but there was that one SNL show which I'm gonna have to mute because I don't want the audio. Whoops. Shouldn't have clicked that. My mistake. I didn't even leak anything. I just showed my stats. There's nothing to brag about. SNL, Mike Myers, elbows up. So on an SNL episode, I think this is where it started. Because in hockey you gotta have your elbows up when you're going against the opposing team, and so Mike Myers on SNL, I guess, coined it and said we need to have elbows up against the Americans while standing on stage with Americans. And he even wears a shirt that says Canada's not for sale. Which is kind of weird to show up to this mecca of American culture, essentially. I feel like that's what SNL is, or a relic of it, whatever word you want to fucking use. And to say something like that, like to have political messaging, I feel that that's a weird place to do it in a comedic space. But sure, Mike Myers, whatever the fuck. Now, mind you, Mike Myers hasn't lived in Canada for fucking decades. He lives in the States. Where does Mike Myers live? In like LA or something. He lives in New York City in a penthouse. He owns a house in Colchester, Vermont. And I'm not shitting on him for that. By all means, live in America. Like, do your thing. You're a celebrity. You make millions. Like, fine. Nobody cares where you fucking live. Who gives a shit? But for you to pretend as if you're, like, one of the people or you're a figurehead of some symbolic movement. Fucking elbows up, guys. Everybody elbows up. I'm one of you guys. Oh, like, what? What are you talking about? You're an uber rich celebrity. You're like world famous. Dude, you're fucking Shrek for fuck's sake. Like every kid knows about you without even knowing your name. You're known to the world. And you're pretending to be like one of us? Like what? You haven't even lived in Canada for like years. You're from here, sure. You're a Canadian icon and we take you as our own. But like, let's not pretend as if like you have some strong like national ties here. And I'm okay, he does have national ties, obviously. He's from fucking Canada. I'm sure he reps it as much as he can. But it's just strange to see a celebrity that has gone over to live in America because clearly the quality of life is better there, because the government taxes you less there, because the climate is better there, or because of whatever fucking reason. There's some benefit that drew him to the States. Otherwise, he would have stayed here. So, you have Mike Myers pulling this fucking bullshit, elbows up. Carney fucking takes it on as his slogan to the point where Mike Myers and Carney do a little fucking sit down. They did a campaign video together on a hockey rink. Oh, I'm one of you guys. I go watch hockey. Really? Yeah? You're at a small town hockey rink? That's what you do in your free time? Really? No, I definitely believe this fucking folksy bullshit you're trying to push off. Oh, so what if I live in the States? Are you serious? He's questioning him on Canadian trivia? That's what this commercial was? And I'm not playing audio on purpose, by the way. I don't want to get fucking copyright struck. What are the seasons of Toronto? Winter and construction. It's such a funny joke. I know local references. Look at me. Wow, you really are Canadian. You really know a lot of these stereotypes. Will there always be a Canada? Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Never 51. Oh, that is... Maybe false flag isn't the right word for this. But, like, that is just the most psyop-y bullshit ever. That Canada is gonna let, like, we're at risk of being the 51st state. Like, say what you want. Most Canadians are not on board with that. And I have mixed feelings about it. Just because of how hard Trudeau and his fucking establishment have fucked us, that the United States seemed like a great alternative. Like, remember those Waterloo engineers that I mentioned at the beginning of this whole episode? How we have some of the greatest and smartest people when it comes to computers and AI and development of apps and software and all this great tech and shit? Remember how I mentioned that? Remember also how I mentioned they go to San Francisco because the pay is better there, the quality of life is better there? Even in San fucking Francisco, where people get shit thrown in their fucking cars, They get broken windows all the time. There's needles on certain streets. There's just places you don't go at night. Like that same San Francisco. Like that's where people are headed because Canada has such shit opportunities for its new grads that are at the beginning of their careers when they're like their best chance at taking big risks and building big things or making a lot of fucking money that goes back into the market or offers a service that people need. All of those people, or a good chunk of them anyways, they go to America because at least there's business opportunity there. Just like Mike Myers did. There's no Hollywood in Canada. There's no film industry here that's as big as Hollywood. We have one, sure. People treat Toronto as the Canadian New York, and they shoot a lot of movies here as a result of that. I'm not ignoring that. I'm not saying we don't have industry or that we aren't a powerhouse in some regards. I was just fucking up talking the dinosaurs, bro. We got fucking 20% of the world's dinosaurs. That's incredible. I know where we stand. But we're certainly not America. We don't offer the same kind of opportunities that people do there. Or that companies do there for people. So they have this folksy fucking commercial. And it turns out, people did some digging. Turns out Carney hasn't lived in Canada for the last 10 years. And I will look this up to prove that this fact is true or not true, because this is what I've heard. Because I'm pretty sure he's just been living in the UK and New York and elsewhere. Which is just an incredible fact. A guy that doesn't even live in the fucking country is now prime minister. And is running, again, to be the prime minister. So not only was he quote-unquote placed. Here it is. 2008 to 2013, served as governor of Bank of Canada based in Ottawa. Then 2013 to 2020, relocated to the United Kingdom as governor to the Bank of England, residing in London. And then from 2020 to 2025, worked as the UN Special Envoy on Climate Action and Finance, splitting time between New York, London, and global engagements. And then in March 2025, he returned to Canada upon becoming Prime Minister. This guy hasn't even lived in the fucking country for over a decade, for 12 years, if we're taking this timeline correctly. From 2013 to 2025. He hasn't even lived in the country for a decade, and he's running to fucking lead it? Are you fucking serious? I know those people live in gated communities and they have security and all that. I understand that. They're not living amongst us, right? Unless you see like somebody from the municipal politics, from your city politics, these politicians all have their own places. They have their own beach houses and cottages and all that. Fine, that's the elite. I understand that. But if you're not even living in the fucking country for 10 years leading up to the election, and then you get to be the prime minister? What kind of fucking sense does that make? This guy hasn't even been on the street. It's one thing to hear about a place, it's another thing to actually live there and experience it. And I'm not, look, I don't want to be no fucking Douglas Murray being like, you can't understand until you live there. But it's pretty fucking rich for somebody to come into this country and say, I want to be in charge of it, having not spent 10 years here, the last 10 years. Even though you were instrumental, to an extent, in our economic decisions because you advised the prime minister for 5 years out of the last 10. It's just, it's mind-boggling. This whole fucking thing is mind-boggling, and the more that you dig into it, the more enraging it becomes, because none of this makes sense. Like, Carney should not be allowed to be leader. Just by people understanding that, like, you can't just have someone in power that hasn't even fucking lived here. This is crazy. He might have citizenship and he might have spent some years here, but he's clearly got priorities elsewhere. And then he just comes out of nowhere, and now he's the prime minister. Like, oh, that's cool. Like, what the fuck? It's nuts. It's pandemonium, man. Shit's crazy. Shit's crazy, man. So let's check the results. What are we at? 172 seats are needed for a majority. So we're not there yet. I don't even know what these Oh, all polls are closed. Polls are closed. All polls are closed. Jesus Christ. Yeah, this is not looking good for the Conservatives. Let's hear what these folks have to say.
Coming out of this too, you've got to look at it from the Bloc's perspective. What will the Bloc want to do? And I think the Bloc, we have.
All right, I'm not interested in hearing about the Quebecois. Because frankly, I don't give a shit. They want to act like their own country, by all means, have at it. Have at it. I dare you to secede, pussy. Oh, let's hear another clip of some more CBC bias. Play the clip.
And if that is true, that the Conservatives are going to suffer in Quebec, that I think speaks to some of the choices that Pierre Poilievre made. But we will talk more about that as results firm up. Ian has some. And if that is true, that the Conservatives are going to suffer in Quebec, that I think speaks to some of the choices that Pierre Poilievre.
I don't know. That just seems like generic commentary. I'm not defending their bias, but that didn't seem all that inflammatory. But this commentary right here, quote, but they don't make a strong case for themselves with their partisan commentary. Yeah, that, like, clearly anti-conservative, but I don't know if that goes all the way. Let's see if there's anything else that's been making the rounds. Let's see if we can find something. Let's see this.
Fascinating data when you look at it, Vashi, because it shows you what are the ballot box issues, what's driving people to the polls, even though the dominant narrative in this election has been one person, Donald Trump, south of the border. It is important, but there are so many other issues at play, too, in this election.
Yeah, people really.
Fascinating data when you look at it, Vashi, because it shows you what are the ballot box issues, what's driving people to the polls, even though the dominant narrative in this election has been one person, Donald Trump, south of the border. It is important, but there are so many other.
Okay, I'm not sure what that's. What the point of that's supposed to be. Okay, yeah, this I mean, this is 2 hours ago. Is there anything more recent? Because if we're to believe what Global News is saying about 137, like this is a massive lead from 109. It's not. Maybe I'm just missing something here. Let's see if Juno News is saying anything different from their account. Oh, this ought to be good. This ought to be good. They said that the CTV News pundits say young voters' anger over economic insecurity boosted conservative appeal, drawing comparisons to the dynamics that helped to get U.S. President Donald Trump elected.
It's interesting. We were listening to Corey and Scott bring up the age factor, and I want to talk about that with our talk people here because older Canadians tend to vote Liberal by a huge percentage. Those 35 to 54 prefer the Conservatives. And then there's the youth vote. Conservatives are resonating with young people. Is that what you're hearing?
Well, the callers and the listeners tend to be a little bit older quite often, but I do have a lot of very engaged young people. And Justin Lang wrote this great column for the Toronto Star about why Donald Trump won, and it was a lot about sort of the bro culture and what young men are sick of, what they're afraid of, that they don't have job security, that never get a pension, they can't find a girl. I don't know if Pierre Poilievre is going to solve that, but the presumption these days is conservatives solve those things.
But I think, and this goes back to what you were saying before in our last chat about people being angry, right? Because if you look at the Liberals, is it the same party, just different leaders? So if they're angry about the potential of the Liberals winning.
What I noticed in the last couple of days is that some of the older audience who I mentioned had become a bit defensive of Mark Carney. In the early days, the Conservatives were running against a resume, and it's a really good resume. And as they got to know him a little bit, I think they saw he had a cranky side. He was mean to reporters. Look inside yourself. I don't think that played very well with older people. So that started to soften up a little bit. But the anger of younger people played in too. When the platforms got costed, I started to get emails and texts from people, younger people, saying, look at the debt he's going to put us into. So Trump went a little quieter. And then the economy became the issue again a little bit more. It's what I was saying earlier about musical chairs. And, if the music had kept playing for another week, where would we be? There was a little bit of a shift coming. You start to see that a little bit from Atlantic Canada, maybe. Does that hold as we move on into the areas where we talk to people every day on the air? I'm not sure yet, but it's gone back and forth. There's been a real ebb and flow. And I think if young people are as angry as I heard them, they traditionally don't come out to vote, right? Older people get out and vote. Younger people are busy. I think a lot of younger people were angry enough that they made a point of it, especially when there was a long weekend to do it.
Right.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I love that the not the anti-Trump part of it, but just the what he said about bro culture and how men can't get a job or a girl or they feel disaffected, how the same thing played up with Trump is now playing out in Canada. I don't know who that political pundit is, but that is just that's a perfect example of exactly why Trump won, because these people don't understand that there's people with legitimate grievances. Like this isn't some wave of Andrew Tate enjoyers that is now backing Pierre Poilievre because he's a misogynist or some shit, or because he appeals to that base. Like, I feel like that guy was like a sentence short of outright just coming out and saying incels. I feel like he was really fighting back those words, because what else am I left to believe? Because that was just an absolute misrepresentation of what's going on. Like, the liberals fucked the country. Our GDP has stagnated over 10 years. GDP per capita. Show me a graph of GDP per capita for Canada since the earliest available statistics until now. For anyone that's seen the graph that I'm talking about, it's just we've ended up where we started 10 years ago. And GDP per capita is a statistic where per capita essentially indicates per 1,000 people, right? I'm pretty sure it's per 1,000, not per 100,000. Let me just make sure here. I don't think it's necessarily per person. It's per 1,000, right? Let me make sure this is correct, because I don't want to make the wrong claim. Actually, hold on. Let me... My apologies. It's not a rate per 1,000 people. Instead, it's the total gross domestic product of a country divided by its total population, yielding an average economic output per person. My mistake. Glad I corrected that, because for some reason I had this idea that it was per 1,000 people. So in any case, let's see that graph. Where's the fucking generate a graph to illustrate the GDP per capita trend over this time? Come on, AI, you should be able to generate a graph. Because seeing all these numbers doesn't mean shit. Actually seeing the trend line is exactly what's telling here. Oh, is it just pumping out the code? This is amazing. Is it? Oh, it's not a graph, it's a chart. Is it literally because I just used the wrong word? But it is a graph. It's a line graph, is it not? It shows a trend over time. Am I retarded? There's no way. I refuse to believe that. I'm not retarded. Really? Is there no? Okay, fine. So I have to fucking Google image the search. GDP per capita chart Canada. Okay, this is according to Statistique Canada. All right, so the best place for it. Gross domestic product per capita return to trend scenario analysis. Chart 1 from Statistics Canada. This is the best place where you could find it, right? Let's see 2015. Let me pull out the red marker. Un momento, por favor. 2015. Roughly here, right? We're here. And then in 2025, we go all the way up and we're fucking here. Now, is that not a straight line? Let me connect those points. Better yet, let me connect those points. Does that not look like basically a fucking straight line? It certainly doesn't look like an upward incline like it did for the years past, except between 2007 and 2009 due to the financial crisis. But look at the rate of growth. We started, and we ended up back at almost the same place where we started. And we have 10 million more people to our population throughout that time, if not more. It's boggling, mind-boggling that we fucking ended up exactly where we started. This is fucking insane. Let me just get rid of that. There we go. It's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. All right, how many writings do we have reported? Now it's 119 to 149. 40% to 47. I have no idea what these trends mean. There's plenty of districts and places that still need to get reported. So who the fuck knows what's going to happen tonight? Who knows? Who knows? But it's genuinely impressive. You know what? I'll hand it to the liberals. It's genuinely impressive that we could live through this graph and end up exactly where we started, essentially, and have houses be more expensive and living costs be more expensive and have everything just be more expensive in general. And yet they are still winning a good chunk of the popular vote. Of the vote that's still at this point been counted. That is that's genuinely impressive. Like, you have to be really fucking good at politics to be able to launch something like that. You gotta give the devil his due. Yeah, that is something. Mark Carney's Liberals projected to form government. Sure they are. Sure they are. I don't know. If he does win, If he does win, it's going to be very strange to see what happens in the next 5-6 years with him as prime minister, so long as he doesn't face a vote of no confidence and then we go back to an election. Because any amount of things can happen between now and the next 5-6 years. But it wouldn't look good. It wouldn't look good. It certainly wouldn't look good. And you know what? Just to outline some reasons why that wouldn't look good. Mark Carney wrote a book called what was it? What was the book that he wrote? It's called Values. Anyone can go and like pick it up and see for themselves what it's all about. He essentially writes a book where he essentially talks about his values, where he quote unquote wants to build a better world for all. In this book, he argues that a majority, I think like 80% or something of the fossil fuels that we have right now in the ground have to stay that way. Now, say what you want about fossil fuels and climate change and whatever arguments anyone has against it. It is an undeniable resource of value that, if unlocked effectively, could really boost our economy. And that doesn't mean that we have to subsist on these fuels. We could just simply ship them overseas where there's plenty of countries that are willing to buy that fuel. And instead of them buying it from dictatorships and shady regimes, they could buy it from us and have some kind of an economic alliance with us, which I would argue is probably better for geopolitical stability than having these nations turn to places like Iran and Russia for their oil, or China. Right? I'd rather have those nations on our side than have them aligned with China. I feel like that's, that should probably be a no-brainer. I really don't see what's so inflammatory about that. I feel like that would be a very useful soft power method to effectively lead people towards more Western values through economic influence. I feel like that would be a great thing because I particularly like the values that underpin our society, and I'd like to see them propagated all over the world. And not by regime change, but by people realizing that freedom of speech and freedom of commerce and freedom of association is actually the way towards a better life, and not authoritarian top-down scrutiny where the people get fucked and the rich get richer, which is essentially what happens in those countries. And that's not to say that those people don't have economic opportunities. It's just it's with the government thumb on them at all times. Like, good luck buying private land in China. Good luck doing something like that, or speaking out against the government, or doing that in Russia, or in Iran, or any of these nations, or even Saudi Arabia to an extent. Like, they don't share the same values that we do, whether you like it or not. And so in any case, not to get too far from the book, but he essentially outlines all of his values in this book. Everyone can pick it up. If you're so inclined, you can even find a copy at a torrent, and you can read it for free without having to fucking pay for it, which I would advocate for doing that in Minecraft if I can save myself. I don't even think there's gonna be any fucking legal punishment for that. Yeah, torrent it by all means. Torrenting is great, especially when you don't want to support the person whose shit you're torrenting and you just want to see what it's all about. In this book, he outlines it all.